So, quite recently somebody asked me, why should we study history? And why is it important for me to know which date, which war was held? And, when is Battle of Panipat, when is like who won and that. So why do I have to really be bothered about it? It doesn't really help me in any way in any of my life situations. So, just to burst your bubble, you don't read history to read, you don't read it to basically get yourself some additional marks or, things like that. This is not general knowledge. If history is being taught to you in terms of, the statistics, the facts only, then you're not really reading history at all. So just reading a particular textbook and then just vomiting that in your particular answer sheets and expecting marks in return for this. So this is not really why you study history. So you study history because it tells you a story of how things have been, a story of the times that they have been part of, and it also tells you stories of people and all of that comes with that. So it is not just a number, it's not mere a statistic. So if you say that, the Cholas, the Pallavas, the, Hoysalas, the Vijayanagara Empire was ruled between X and Y, Z period, it is just a number, it's just a statistic. But if you tell stories as to, how people were, what was the king all about, the entire story about how their family or their dynasty came to be, and what are the things that they did, for example, the good things, the bad things, how did they actually treat their subjects, treat their, and how did they go to war and what war led to what. So it is quite important. So if we now know that, there was an attack on Indian soil about there Muhammad Ghori and Muhammad Ghazni, literally looted every other temple that we had, and that was being possible because of certain wars that typically invaders from the outside came and invaded India. And it started with Alexander, it started with so many, and even essentially why we call Alexander the Great, and then who's Napoleon, who are kings that ruled us. How did democracy come to be? Why did the British take over? How could they take over? Who were the Mysore Maharajas? How many kingdoms did the British basically take over? How did the British actually get to India? Why was India such an important trade route? What did they get out of India? So why were they growing things like indigo in India? What was the salt tax? Why did Gandhiji and millions and millions of normal everyday Indians have to fight for something as basic as salt? What is Quit India movement? How many people were involved? Why was the spirit of an Azad Bharat instilled in our people? How are court sessions held? What was Diwani-Am? What was Diwani-Khas? How were forts built? Why were forts built? Why were they strategically chosen at a particular location? How did people plan wars during certain time frames? When there was war, what did people do in terms of right from the king until this one? How did they train elephants? How did they train cavalry? Who trained them? What was sword fighting? How did they push cannons? These are stories that you have to tell from history. And history is not just about reading about kings. It's not about kingdoms. It's about people. It's about the times that they lived in. It's as simple as knowing your grandfather or grandmother. What was their story? What did they eat? How was their childhood? What did they learn? How did they learn? What was the Gurukula system in the first place? So there is so much to history. And history is not just about random facts. It's about who did what. How could Sarimbi build so many structures? What is the meaning of being a Diwan of Mysore? So many things about history that is not just about what you learn in textbooks. And if you're learning textbooks and saying, why should I learn history? Then, my friend, whatever you're being taught is not the right method of being, not right method in terms of teaching. Not just Indian history. Why were the pyramids built? What's inside the pyramids? What's the technology that they've been using? How are they able to preserve bodies for so many years? What are rituals that they followed? What are hieroglyphics? And are you able to decode them? And then what's Hammurabi's code? Who was Hammurabi? Like, what's Mesopotamia got to do with our cultures in terms of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro? Why is it called Harappa and Mohenjo-daro? What were they trading in ports of Lodi and many other places during that particular time frame? What was the Bronze Age? When did people from the African subcontinent move towards different places? Who are the Aryans? There's a lot to history. There's a lot to history to learn, to really reflect, and to ensure at times that history does not repeat itself, or sometimes to also understand what to do when history repeats itself. History is about people, history is about psychology, history is about geography, history is about science, history is about politics, history is about so many other things. And the moment you realize that there are layers to it, that's when you really understand that history is not just simply a subject that you write and pass in school or in college. It is something that stays with you every day. Every day you create history. And your history, my history, and everybody's history intermingles to basically form our history. Be it wars, be it peaceful times. There's everybody that's contributing to history. Today, you and I, in this exact moment, are contributing to the history of a future. So the history that our future generations will read will be about us, will be about you and me, and how we could basically share our stories and inspire people. History is about so many things. The next time somebody asks you, what's the use of reading history is of no use for us, think again. Think of all these things. Think of what you can learn. Think of all that you can unlearn. Think of all the things that you can grab out of this. Especially in your corporate world, the lessons learned and the best practices shared. So that's what is our history all about. So that's it for today's video, and I hope you've really enjoyed this. Thank you.